disappointing conclusion for family members at the inquest into a woman's death in Kingfisher Lake. Good evening and thank you for joining us. A jury has not assigned blame in the 2017 death of Ruthann Quequish.
That was the determination this afternoon after 22 witnesses spoke at the inquest over 3 weeks. Quequish died after she attended Kingfisher Lake First Nations nursing station. Joel Mendelson joins us now in studio. Joel, the jury still did provide recommendations, however, is that correct?
Yes, Ryan. The jury actually brought forward nearly 40 recommendations. They focused on calling for advocacy for serious healthcare reforms in remote First Nations communities. Ruthann Quequish passed away due to complications associated with her diabetes after attending a nursing station in Kingfisher Lake First Nation in 2017. The jury in her death inquest has recommended numerous steps to prevent further suffering in remote First Nations. Firstly, it advocates for the transition to a single electronic medical record for patients so that medical professionals can form a better understanding of patients' needs. Furthermore, it recommends having physicians at Kingfisher Lake First Nation at all times, as well as increased training for nurses to better inform them of the tendencies of the communities which they treat. One of the many other ideas is to create a scholarship program to encourage students in the First Nation to pursue careers in medicine. Quetnun MPP Saul Mamakwa says the First Nations need to be in control of their own health care.
Bringing back services closer to home, but also, again, bringing back the power and the authority back to the First Nations, let them decide. Give us those provincial resources, give us those, federal resources, and let us run it on our own, because we can make it better than the rest of Ontario. We can make it better than the rest of Canada.
Mamakwa expressed his satisfaction with the recommendations and the changes they may bring. Alternatively, Nan Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler is not satisfied with the verdict of an undetermined cause of death.
When you look at the circumstances, not just on her death, but the other tragic deaths that have happened in our communities, it's because of racism in the healthcare system. That there is neglect. Like, how many times did Ruthann go to the nursing station with the same condition, with the same symptoms, or the same symptoms, and was sent home?
Quequish's brother Jordan spoke to end the inquest. He expressed his hope that with better healthcare systems in place, nobody should have to go through what they did. Joel Mendelson, TBT News.
Some troubling statistics from the Thunder Bay Police Service. The force says its officers are assaulted 3 times more often than the provincial average.
And this past weekend, the service saw a 30% increase in total calls for service. Nev Van Pelt joins us live from the police station. Nev?
Thanks, Riley. Police Chief Darcy Fleury provided these alarming stats in his monthly update to the public yesterday. And in terms of actual incidents between January 1st and July 31st this year, there were 52 charges laid for assault of a police officer.
Statistics have shown that the Thunder Bay Police Service received 150 more calls for service last weekend than the same weekend a month prior. With this increase in calls, there has also been more assaults against police officers, with Thunder Bay's service seeing 3 times as many reported as the provincial average.
We are seeing a bit more of the more higher level calls where there is some violence involved, where we have people sort of some of the nuisance stuff. I have been watching quite a bit, actually, some of the stuff we're seeing as far as shoplifting and people walking out of stores with things like that. So I'm seeing a bit of an uptick on that just by what I'm reading in the overnights. Mental health, of course, still remains a big piece of it.
There were a total of 75 charges laid in 2023 and 52 within the past 6 months, which doesn't include situations where officers opt not to charge a person who has assaulted them. Chief Fleury says these incidents can have a negative effect on officers' mental state.
When you get into a situation where it's elevated and it continues to elevate, there's a lot of anxiety placed on an officer. So the officer now knows that they haven't been successful in de-escalating that situation, and now they're going to have to go into a more physical position. That does play in your mind, and it comes all the things come into play. Can I manage the situation? Am I able to control the person myself? Is fear going to be a factor, and all this kind of stuff?
Regarding the 30% increase in calls for service, Chief Fleury says he wished he knew what the contributing factors were so they could prevent incidents before they happen.
We don't really know why. If we can't really narrow it down. If we could, then we'd be way more proactive in trying to prevent those things. But really what happens is just the nature of policing, and sometimes you get a really high spike in things, and sometimes you don't.
Fleury also says they'd like to see an increase in the impact program, as they believe it would be beneficial for officers. I'm Nev Van Pelt reporting live from the police station. Now back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Nev. Well, local police have released new details about the last confirmed sighting of a man who's been missing for more than 2 weeks. Police now say 42-year-old Richard Graham was last seen here at a business on the 500 block of Cumberland Street North on the morning of Tuesday, July 30th. From there, he is said to have boarded a Thunder Bay Transit bus heading south. It's unknown where he got off the bus. Graham is described as a white male standing 5'6" with medium-length red hair, a red beard, and hazel eyes. He was last seen wearing a camouflage short-sleeve shirt, black pants with a subtle camouflage pattern, a camouflage ball cap, gray and black running shoes, and a large black backpack. Anyone with information, including possible surveillance footage of Graham, is asked to contact police.
Turning to provincial politics now, a surprise announcement regarding the Ontario government today. The province's education minister has resigned just weeks before the start of a new school year. Todd Smith stepped down after just 10 weeks on the job. The veteran Progressive Conservative has represented the Bay of Quinte riding since 2011. He served as Ontario's energy minister for 3 years before taking over the education portfolio after a cabinet shuffle in June. This afternoon, Premier Doug Ford named Jill Dunlop as the new education minister.
The shakeup in the provincial cabinet will also affect local MPP Kevin Holland. Holland has been named the new Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products. The province says that with this and other changes, the government remains focused on rebuilding Ontario's economy and protecting public safety. Holland previously held the roles of parliamentary assistant to both the Minister of Long-Term Care and the Minister of Mines. Holland was unavailable for an interview on the changes.
The Mary Bergland Clinic in Ignace will be expanding its pediatric care services.
That's thanks to $500,000 in annual funding announced this week by the province. Justin Hardy has more.
Kenora MPP Greg Rickford was in Ignace this week to announce the new funding, which will support programs and services that the province says demonstrate innovative approaches in pediatric care at Mary Bergland Community Health Centre. The extra $537,000 a year will be used to vastly expand the clinic's pediatric services, according to Heidi West, executive director of the health centre. She adds that the support of the province has been a great help in bringing pediatric services to the area.
It's allowed us to create this beautiful room that we're in today. We've created partnerships with Dryden Regional Hospital and the physician group of obstetrics and gynecology, and we're very excited to be able to now have gynecologists, obstetrics here on site. We're working towards bringing pediatricians, clinical psychology, and a lot of exciting specialties and programs in general to the community here.
This funding is part of the province's investment of an additional $330 million each year in pediatric health services across Ontario. Rickford says that one of the outcomes the province is hoping for is to attract more service providers.
So between Kenora and Ignace, you'll see over the coming months that there'll be a particularly strong commitment to pediatric services. And once that's demonstrated, sure enough, you get pediatric specialists wanting to serve and prospectively work in the area. So it's a recruitment tool, but most importantly, it offers the good folks of Ignace the services that they deserve.
In addition to the expanded services, the funding allows the health center to offer services 7 days a week by having physicians on call Saturdays and Sundays. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The annual West Fort Street Fair is back for another day full of fun. The event will run tomorrow with a record 95 vendors this year. Thousands of people are expected to make their way down to Frederica Street tomorrow for the 42nd installment of Thunder Bay's longest running street fair. The event is for all ages with a variety of fun activities. That includes bouncy castles, face painting, a petting zoo, a hot dog eating contest, live music, and much more.
We've been having this event for 42 years. We circle this one on the calendar every year. West Fort loves this event, and the event loves West Fort. We get like 5,000 to 10,000 people every year, so it's crazy on the street mid-afternoon. The sales are amazing. All of the West Fort businesses have great sales and deals on the vendors. We have our record amount of vendors this year. So it's a huge event. It's one like at the end of the summer I think everyone in the community looks forward to. So yeah, we're all pumped up for it.
Games will be happening up and down the street, organizers remind the public that many vendors are cash only and that the fair runs from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Always a great time at the West Fort Street Fair.
I have information about that, though.
Okay.
Something that wasn't mentioned in that. Rock 94's own Ted Jessup will be in the dunk tank.
That is big
even
news.
more reason
I
to
don't
go.
know exactly what time, but all the reason to go there.
Absolutely.
And dunk Ted Jessup from the Morning Bender.
We'll want to do that.
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
Well, Fiona, we hope that Ted gets very wet, gets dunked a lot of times, but
if I have anything to say about it, it will happen.
But the people attending the event, of course, do not want to get wet. It's raining a bit out there today. What's it looking like for tomorrow?
Actually not looking as bad as you might think. Things are actually looking pretty good. We'll get to that in a moment. Today, of course, we had rain all last night and this morning, and then it turned into a lot of mist and then a lot of cloud. But you'd almost think Environment Canada's equipment wasn't working very well because we had a low of 18 and a high of 19. Temperatures just did not move today, and the winds were from 14 to 17 kilometers per hour. Again, the wind was very consistent. And as you can see, this is where we started, and this is what happened throughout the day. It's a system that's kind of cycling around the Great Lakes. At this point, there is still a fair amount of rain, but it's more to the west. It's kind of being kept away from Thunder Bay. Some areas, though, are still looking at showers. Now, across the region, Fort Frances had some rain to start, but for the most part, they were under cloudy skies, and they too saw very little movement in temperatures, a low of 18, a high of 21. Red Lake actually warmed up quite nicely. They topped out, I believe, at 25 a couple of hours ago. They had partly cloudy skies. They had a little pop-up shower in the last hour or two, and now they're back to mostly cloudy conditions. Greenstone has had periodic showers for the last 12 hours or so. They're currently seeing rain at 17. Armstrong, a little warmer at 23. So as the rain moves through, it's causing temperatures to drop when it falls, and then they rebound. So there's a lot of fluctuation in places where the rain is coming and going. Where it comes and just sticks around, very consistent. So Sault Ste. Marie had a low of 18. They're currently high of 20. They had rain most of the day. In just the last few hours, they're under mostly cloudy skies. And here in the city of Thunder Bay, we'll drop down just a couple more degrees tonight. A low of 16 is expected, so a little bit muggy out there because there is still about a 40% chance of showers. Remember, there's still potential cycling around Lake Superior. Here in the city, though, we've got a 40% chance of showers, winds very light. And that shows that the rain is tapering off. And, you know, Riley, Ryan, we've got a lot of events going on. We already mentioned the street fair in Westport. We have the Japanese Matsuri on Saturday night. There are all kinds of community markets. There is a drive-by art gallery all over the city that you definitely want to check out. So a lot of folks have plans. Probably won't get as much sun as some might like, but we're going to get high temperatures and just a itty bitty risk of a pop-up afternoon shower, which when you've got high temperatures may not necessarily be a bad thing, but I'll have more on that later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. All things considered, not a bad weekend at all. All right, well, let's turn our attention when we come back to Jasper, Alberta. A difficult day there. Of course, residents are starting to be allowed back into that community. That is a good thing, of course, but that is assuming that they have a home to go back to. And for many, it's their first chance to see the devastation there firsthand. We'll have details on that and more when your Friday News Hour continues after the break.
A third of the people in every aspect of our town, a third of them don't have a place to come back to, and that's extremely hard on them, but us as a community as well.